Hello and welcome to Horror Cult Trash Over, the show that discusses all of the masterpieces and trash pieces of genre cinema. I'm Gary.
And I'm Chris.
And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 32.
Okay. I'm not.
It is my birthday and we're recording.
Oh, okay.
I've got to mention that, special occasion.
We are discussing it. Okay.
And what better way to spend my birthday than to discuss one of my absolute favourite horror films from the last few years.
Yes, happy birthday, Gary.
Thank you.
Welcome to Hagsploitation Month.
Yes. Appropriate. Appropriate.
As somebody who may or may not be older than you, I won't make the obvious joke.
Resenting growing old, and we're not losing our beauty, so that's okay. No. Not yet. Give it another 10 years. But before we get on to the film, we should have a catch-up. What's new with Chris and Gary?
Yeah. Good week for films. Very good week for films.
Yeah. My best of the week is Paul of London.
Paul of London. Now that's Paul as P-O-O-L.
Yes, not Paul from London.
Paul from London. We're continuing with our Ealing films that we've been watching at the local independent cinema. And this week it was Paul of London. Really caught me off guard. Just how fantastic it was. We know Ealing for comedies, and I think the majority of people know Ealing Studios for the comedies. They're the ones that everyone talks about, the Alec Guinness films. But this was oh my god, almost like a film noir. Yeah. Really, like a British version of a noir. Which exists. But... And
one of my honourable mentions is actually It Always Rains on Sunday, which is also like a noir. And it's weird because they're not like traditional... I guess noir, I always think of a detective solving a crime, dark alley, sort of thing. But these they work noir into it in such a clever way, and it's heavily within the cinematography. They look beautiful, they work perfectly, and Paul of London is probably one of the most important British films ever made, which is a shame that hardly anyone's ever watched it.
Yeah, very sort of, forward thinking with its depiction of race.
Yeah.
For 1951.
For 1951
we're not judging by today's standards.
For 1951, this is perfect.
But for 1951, it's really progressive.
Yeah, it really is. It's fantastic. And the performances are great. There's little moments of humour scattered in because it is Ealing, but it doesn't overdo it. It takes it very seriously, and it works because of that.
Yeah.
And everyone should try and seek it out, no matter where I don't know where you can find it, but try and find it and watch it.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I hope Studio Canal or BFI do a release on Blu-ray. Yeah, I would love that.
And for worst of the week, it is the worst. I'm going to be very, very specific with this, and I assume it's your worst of the week as well.
Yes, I'm sorry to tell you.
It's Tombs of the Blind Dead, but it's Tombs of the Blind Dead, the US cut. So we watched it at the cinema, and for some reason they showed the cut version. So without the gore, it's just... There are moments of camp, which are really fucking funny. But there's just a lot of people walking around.
Yeah.
It was just really boring in parts. There's literally a scene where the zombies are coming to kill a woman, and she reads an entire book, listens to some jazz, has a cigarette, and they still haven't got to her. Yeah. So, with the added gore, I think it could be better. So we have ordered it from America, the uncut version. And you never know, it might make it on the best of one week.
Yeah, it's a real shame, and it wasn't advertised as the cut version.
No.
Because we wouldn't have seen it if it was. Let's be fair. It was meant to be on a double bill with I Eat Your Skin, and I Eat Your Skin was cancelled. So it was very disappointing. Very dull in parts.
It was.
But also really campy, and I really like the look. So fingers crossed the uncut version will do it better justice.
I hope so.
Yes.
For some honourable mentions, I watched The American Nightmare for the first time.
I have a long history with that.
Yeah.
I used to watch it religiously, and because there's the classic horror films that it was discussing, and their pretty much their relation to, in particular, the Vietnam War, which I found very fascinating, and I wanted to watch all the films. And the only one that I didn't was Shivers, but yeah, great documentary.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, really pleased that was a good film.
Yeah.
The jury was out from the trailer. I wasn't quite sure, but yeah, pleasantly pleased.
And the director is making the new Zelda film as well. I mean, I think it's in very good hands.
Now, related to that, personally for me, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes, two fantastic films.
Yeah.
So really been enjoying this franchise.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see where it goes. Yeah,
same here. And yeah, as I already mentioned, It Always Rains on Sunday.
Always Rains on Sunday. Now we did for Gary's birthday. We like to do little film marathons and such, and you had a little nostalgia trip at the weekend. So these are films that we'd seen previously, but weirdly enough, we watched the sequel to this week's podcast film, X2. It had a Halle Berry in it for some reason.
Yeah.
The plots, I don't know. I don't see how it's a sequel, but yeah, it's weird to watch it the other way around, isn't it?
That was a good segue. It's a shame I still have another honourable mention.
Oh no!
I've been continuing my Adam Silvera journey with his books, and I read They Both Die at the End, which is fantastic, one of his best, absolutely heart-wrenching stuff, and it's been made into a Netflix series, so I can finally bring you into the world of these sad gay novels, Chris. But yeah, it's really sad, but quite life-affirming as well. Title is quite literal, as you'd expect.
Oh no!
And I've already started the first of that at the end, which is the prequel, and there's a new one coming out in September. Called No One Knows Who Dies at the End. So, yeah.
I will always know what you did last summer. It's giving that energy.
It's called the Deathcast Trilogy, and it's about Deathcast, which calls you up and tells you you're going to die today. And then they give you a list of options of things to do.
So this is gay horror?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I don't think it's listed as a horror, but yeah. It's more romantic drama.
Okay.
But yes, we did watch X-Men 2.
X2.
And today we are talking about
X1
2022. Yes, I've got the X Factor, so show me the stage door.
Wow, that's deep cut.
Spoiler warning is now in effect. And yeah, the start of, dependent on this year's Maxine, what could be one of the best horror trilogies ever made. And modern Hagsploitation.
Yes. So this is a Hagsploitation film. This is very much a modern but set in the past kind of film. So, but yeah, I think it says a lot about aging and women, you know, and we'll discuss that thoroughly.
Yeah, I mean, something that isn't really dealt with in other Hagsploitation films, the idea of older women who are still horny.
Yes. Well, I mean, let's look at the original Hagsploitation film in many people's eyes, Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
Sunset Boulevard, Gloria Swanson wanted to jump
That's true.
William Holden's bones, but she couldn't.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so, well,
but because we're in,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, but because we're in 2022, this explicitly goes into it in a way that really surprised me when we first watched it, and I think it's such a great route to go down, and a route that upset many viewers. People, I do remember seeing comments from people who are absolutely disgusted with things that happened in this film. Not people being chopped up, just old people having sex.
Which is the point.
The whole point of the film.
Which is the whole point of the film.
So it's written and directed by Ty West, who, of course, did The House of the Devil, went on to do Pearl, will be doing Maxine. He did The Innkeepers, one of those films I really desperately wanted to like, but I just didn't. It's just shit.
Oh no.
Yeah. Did The Sacrament. That was very good.
Okay.
That is the found footage film with John Goodman that deals with a specific historical event.
Wait, is that John Goodman on the poster?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
That's not John Goodman.
It is John Goodman.
Isn't that Zelda Rubinstein from Poltergeist? Like genuinely, am I even lying? I'm showing Gary the poster.
That does look like Zelda Rubinstein. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, it's fantastic. I mean, is it a spoiler if I say what it's about?
No.
You got time to quickly skip past if you haven't seen The Sacrament. It's about the Jonestown Massacre.
Oh, okay. Oh, so he likes his films set in the past, doesn't he?
Yeah. So
that's good. I feel like that's what I would probably do.
He also did Cabin Fever 2, Spring Fever, which was very much inspired by Carrie. It's set at a prom. The Roost, Trigger Man, and In a Valley of Violence.
One review for Cabin Fever 2, Spring Fever. I wish instead of watching this that I had died.
Lovely.
It's still 1 star.
Still 1
Not
star.
Even half.
Okay. Well,
not even half a star. I mean,
you should probably look into that. But yes, the day after X's South by Southwest premiere, writer-director Ty West revealed that during a mandatory 2-week COVID-19 quarantine in his New Zealand hotel before production could begin on this film, he wrote Pearl, which, of course, Mia Goth would later go on to co-write with him. A24 saw the script and greenlit the film even before production on X had wrapped. And he asked Mia Goth if she asked to remain in New Zealand and film it, and she accepted. And then it released also in America in 2022.
Nice.
Yeah, Pearl is fantastic as well. Depending on the day of the week, it's the best one out of the 2, but I don't know. The latest rewatch kind of makes me think otherwise of this. But it's very close between them.
Yeah, 2 fantastic films. I cannot wait for Maxine. Yeah. I am so excited. I feel potentially Maxine could have been made for me.
Yeah, I think that's the one that's got the potential.
I think so, yes.
Budget, $1 million. And that's the same for Pearl as well. $2 million for these 2 films.
Yes.
And of course, since they were made, the actors have gone on fucking huge. Specifically, General Ortega.
General Ortega was surprisingly...
Mia Goth's now being cast in like Blade and Del Toro's Frankenstein. So arguably, although she had a career before this, it's kind of made her bigger as well.
Yeah.
Of course, recently there was a specific incident, and we're not here today to tell you we support bullying on the set, but we're here to talk about the film. Not, we're here to talk about performance, and also there's been no court case yet, and she's denied it. So who knows what's going on with that? So we are not taking sides today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But if it's true, we obviously do not support that. If it's true, then Mia Goth's a terrible person. And yeah, now that's out the way. It made 15.1 million worldwide.
Oh, nice.
Big success.
Yes.
And the title of the film refers to the X rating used by the MPAA from 1968 to 1990, which indicated that film was only suitable for an audience aged 16 or older.
Oh, wow.
I never knew that until I did this research. The
16?
idea... Yeah.
18 here.
Well, X was the UK.
Oh, X in the UK.
X was everywhere.
So X in America. So X in America, yeah. So rated R means if you're older, if you're 18 plus,
yeah,
you can take somebody who's younger to see an R-rated film.
Yeah. Well, I have a bit coming up about the R rating.
Okay.
So the idea behind the rating was that, unlike the other certificates, X would not be trademarked and would allow filmmakers to release their film in theatres without needing to submit it to the MPAA for an age certificate. Notable films that were originally released with an X rating include A Clockwork Orange, Fritz the Cat, Last Tango in Paris, Midnight Cowboy, and Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. Nice. Which sounds amazing. In the 70s, the porn industry would end up...
Have you never heard of that before?
No, I haven't.
Oh.
In the 70s, the porn industry would end up exploiting the X rating's lack of a trademark by releasing pornos in theatres with that same rating. Eventually, X became more associated with porn, and more theatres started refusing to show films with an X rating, forcing non-pornographic films to receive the R rating.
Yeah, after Kurtz.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in 1990, the MPAA discontinued the X rating, replaced it with NC-17.
There we go.
Unlike X, NC-17 was trademarked and could not be self-applied, but it still meant that most theatres would not show films with the rating, resulting in censorship once again.
Yes. So, Showgirls.
Showgirls.
Famously the most profitable NC-17 film of all time.
Yeah. I love the amount of thought that went into this film by Ty West, because calling it X because of that reason, bringing Hagsploitation into it, and the fact that it's also one big homage to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I just love it. I love when films can take these sort of inspirations and do something that feels completely new and fresh with it.
Yeah. It wears its inspirations on its sleeve, definitely. But I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that about films.
Yeah. I mean, I assume it's also influenced by Boogie Nights and
The Shining.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
You know, I don't.
Apparently, Debbie Does Dallas.
Debbie Does Dallas. You know, so many sort of films from that time. That zeitgeist. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I love it. Camila Cabello. I love it. Should we talk about who's in here?
Yeah, so the section we like to call "Hey, I Know You."
So Mia Goth is, of course, Maxine Minx, the star who got her start in horror.
What little minx?
/ Pearl Pratt. So when I first watched this, I had no idea that this was Mia Goth in both roles. That was my biggest gas.
Okay.
I haven't included it as biggest gas because it happened after I watched the film, but I had no idea that she played both roles.
She's giving Tilda Swinton.
It's phenomenal. Her performance in this film is incredible. Her performance in Pearl should have been nominated for an Oscar.
Okay.
It should have been. That monologue at the end, that has Oscar scene written all over it.
Mm.
But in the words of Charlie XCX, the Oscars don't like to see bad bitches thriving. So, but yes, Mia Goth, star of Pearl, Suspiria remake, Infinity Pool, The Secret of Marrowbone, Cure for Wellness, Nymphomaniac Volume 2, and more. And it took her up to 6 hours to get into 30 individual prosthetic pieces to become Pearl.
Okay, I'm going to say it now.
Yeah.
Pearl reminded me of Winona Ryder
in Edward Scissorhands. Yeah.
Which I'm living for.
I'd like to think that's what the character went on to be like in Edward Scissorhands.
I couldn't help but just think this is Winona Ryder in Edward Scissorhands.
Could you imagine she just keeps going up to the castle, killing teenagers and having sex with Edward?
That'd be amazing.
That is the sequel we need.
Yes.
Get in touch, Warner Brothers. Jenna Ortega, now an iconic Scream Queen, is Lorraine Day. She was in Scream 5 and 6, Wednesday, The Fallout, Studio 666, The Babysitter, Killer Queen, Insidious Chapter 2, Jane the Virgin, Iron Man 3, and more. Love Jenna Ortega.
Yeah, she's definitely becoming a bit of a Gen Z icon, isn't she?
She is. I feel like she's our big Scream Queen for this generation.
Do you think she's Sarah Michelle Gellar?
Yeah.
Sort of level.
Yeah, to Mia Goth's Nev Campbell.
Maybe.
Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yeah.
Well, Mia Goth's obviously this generation's Shelley Duvall.
Well, she gives Shelley Duvall energy, definitely.
And an icon who completely owns this film is Brittany Snow as Bobby Lynn Parker, aka Blanche Devereaux, if she was allowed to swear and get her tits out. She's star of Pitch Perfect trilogy, Hairspray, Prom Night remake, Would You Rather, John Tucker Must Die, The Pacifier, Christmas with the Campbells, and more. So I was shocked to see she hasn't done that many horror films.
No.
She's so fucking good in horror.
Well,
Prom Night remake was shit, but she was the best thing about it.
Yeah, this is almost sort of the comedic relief.
Yeah.
To a certain extent. She comes across very charming, and it makes you laugh. She gives a camp energy to the film, I think she steals every scene she's in.
She does. She's the cuntiest character of the film by far. And that's saying something because Maxine is very cunty.
Yeah.
But like one scene in this film involving a song by Fleetwood Mac had me crying with laughter in the cinema because of how camp it is. It is so camp, but it's so slay at the same time. It's everything. It is one of the best scenes in horror the last few years. And it's not even a horror scene. Would you agree?
I would agree. She's definitely a standout. Brittany Snow.
And would you agree that they modelled her character after Blanche Devereaux from Golden Girls?
Yes, she's definitely given Blanche. Definitely, I think she's the Debbie Does Dallas.
I think so. Yeah.
Styly. I've never seen Debbie Does Dallas. People on these sort of, I would never watch Deep Throat. But with Debbie Does Dallas, people either say it's the best thing or the worst thing ever. So I'm a bit nervous to watch these films.
Well, in an interview, she spoke about doing the nude scenes because obviously, when you have as much nudity in your well-known name like Brittany Snow, the press are going to get on you.
Yes.
They're going to get on you and they're going to talk about it because naked bodies is a big talking point, apparently, still in the 2020s. She said, I think there was a lot of confidence in terms of our characters, and a part of the nudity came from that confidence that our characters exuded. It almost felt necessary because not only were we filming porn, but our characters would have been so comfortable with that. And she said that the film was an exercise in her feeling confident about her body and was very proud of herself. Good for you, girly.
Yeah, we obviously have always supported anyone's choice to get naked on screen, as long as it's their choice and they're comfortable with it. And I don't know. I suppose we are programmed. Society has programmed us to sort of raise a little eyebrow. It was like, oh, Brittany Snow. Oh, wow. I didn't think that was going to happen, but we obviously, as we grow older, we realise, well, actually, we're all mature enough here and it's not that big of a deal.
No. I love how sex positive this film is. It really, it really just makes it stand out so much. Especially means it's coming from an era where some horror films were wrongly accused of being misogynistic and some horror films were rightly accused of being misogynistic with its depiction of just nudity for the sake of it with actresses who aren't comfortable. Now, obviously, there was a lot of nudity in the 70s with actresses who were comfortable with doing it, but there was also a lot where they were kind of like, do it or you're not getting the part.
Yes.
So I think for Ty West to take a film, set it in that period, and make it so sex positive, I just think it's fantastic.
Yeah, and the whole point of the film.
Yeah.
The whole point of the film is this sort of battle between the righteousness and the Christian morals and the counterculture, which was very prevalent in the 60s, 70s, and up till now, really. Yeah. But I think it's deliberately set in the 1970s because that was so prevalent at the time.
And I'd say that goes for the whole trilogy. I mean, obviously, Pearl, we know it goes for that as well.
Yes.
But from the looks of the Maxine trailer, I think that's what they're going for.
Yeah.
And yeah, it works so well. Kid Cudi plays Jackson Hole. Star of Don't Look Now, Need for Speed, Silent Night.
Don't Look Now?
Not that. Oh, Don't Look Up. Don't Look Up.
He wasn't there with Julie Christie.
He certainly wasn't. No.
In Venice.
Don't Look Up. Bill and Ted Face the Music, Parachute, Crater, House Party Remake, Crisis, Jexy, and more. Of course, Kid Cudi also known for Day and Night.
Yeah, let's be honest. We only really know him for his music.
And Bill and Ted.
Where he played himself.
Yeah.
So we just know Day and Night.
I think he's bigger in America than he is in the UK.
Potentially.
Like Bill and Ted, he's treated like a musical legend.
Executive producer on X and Pearl.
Nice.
And Malcolm and Marie.
Oh.
Yeah, real shit.
It's all going so well.
Do you remember when we thought Malcolm and Marie was going to be like 5-star?
Yeah, I do.
Classic.
Oscar bait gone wrong.
Yeah.
Martin Henderson plays Wayne Gilroy. He was in The Ring, The Strangers Pray at Night, Smoking Aces. Is it Torquay or Talk?
Talk.
Okay, so
It's not the seaside
Torquay,
town.
Devon. Grey's Anatomy, Virgin River, Everest, Home and Away, Miracles from Heaven, and more.
Not Home and Away.
And he's so good here. The whole cast is so good. Like, I don't think there's a bad performance here.
No.
And Owen Campbell plays R.J. Nichols. He was in Super Dark Times, As You Are, My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To, Perks of Being a Wallflower, Candyland, Miseducation of Cameron Post, and more.
Yes, and interestingly, we have Karen Gillan uncredited as the radio steak seller.
Oh, wow.
Voice.
Wow, I did not know that.
I don't know, was she just randomly available? Were they
must
out
have
for
been.
dinner and Ty West got his phone out and said, oh, just record this for me?
Well,
I can't imagine Karen Gillan going out of her way.
No.
Well, I mean...
Well, maybe. She seems quite laid back.
She seems very laid back. She
posts her therapy sessions with her husband on social media.
Yeah, she seems very laid back, actually. I'm sure she's up for anything.
Okay.
Grow up.
Let's talk about our feature presentation.
Action.
Well, this is it. Our own studio backlog.
Farmer's daughter, take one.
My wife is not well. It happens after dark.
Ma'am?
Something's wrong. You don't want to leave, do you? Just don't understand why you're doing this.
Because it is possible to make a good, dirty movie.
In 1979, police officers arrive on a lonely farm in rural Texas and find numerous dead bodies wrapped in bags. They enter the farmhouse and find something shocking in the basement. And it looks like the location of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It's Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, the cinematography...
The house down boots.
Yeah, the cinematography has that bit of grain to it, to where it isn't too much. It still looks like a modern film, but it also looks very 70s as well.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. 24 hours earlier, aspiring adult film star Maxine is on a trip to shoot a pornographic film with her producer boyfriend Wayne, fellow burlesque dancer and Blanche Devereaux type, if she was allowed to swear, Bobby Lynn, Marine Corps veteran Jackson, director RJ, and RJ's quiet and shy girlfriend Lorraine. We're introduced to Maxine as she's doing cocaine in the dressing room mirror, and she looks in the mirror and says, "You're a fucking sex symbol."
She's got big hoop earrings, big hoop energy, bright blue eyeshadow, and a tube top.
It's such a slay.
Could you get any more 70s porn star than that?
It's true. It's true. And her delivery of that line, oh my god, it's amazing.
Yes.
It's like, yes, this is for the gays.
Pure Studio 54.
Bobby Lynn discusses her hopes and dreams in the van on the way to the shooting location, to where she says, "Well, you know I'm always game. My American dream is not unreasonable. I just want a paid-for house with a big old pool so I can float around with my knees in the breeze and tan these titties."
Yes.
And they laugh at her and she says, "What? I was that a good hand. People spend a lot of money to look at what God gave me. It'd be a sin not to take care of them." It's true.
It's very true. Very true. Very confident.
Yeah.
Very, comfortable in her own skin, in her own body.
Yeah.
She knows what she wants, and she knows what she needs to do to get there. Bobby Lynn is, for all intents and purposes, rather homely in the sense of what she wants from life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she knows what she needs to do to get there is the easiest and best way to get there is selling sex.
Yeah.
Selling her, her sexuality. For Maxine, you kind of feel that she wants more.
Yeah.
She doesn't just want the pool, she wants the mansion.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's very much play into what Hagsploitation does with the younger characters. Where Bobby Lynn and Maxine both thriving and with high goals in life, which makes the Lorraine character very interesting.
Yes.
Because she kind of acts like the older character would in a Hagsploitation film, with how prudish she is and how she doesn't agree with what they're doing. And yeah, I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's very much about the generations and how different generations treat sex
Mm.
or are allowed to treat sex.
Yeah.
What I found very interesting, and I feel like it's a deliberate thing, is as they're driving off, "Summertime" by Mungo Jerry starts
Yes.
playing, and the lyrics I always remember from that song are, "If her daddy's rich, take her out for a meal. If her daddy's poor, then do what you feel."
Yeah.
Which is totally about exploitation of women.
Yeah.
And this film's about the exploitation of women. Definitely. Because RJ, he wants the film to be more avant-garde, like they're doing in France.
Yes.
The Beast.
Yeah.
Comes to mind. I hope it's not quite like that film. But that plays out throughout the film as well, with the RJ character.
They stop off at a gas station and film a scene of Jackson pretending to fill up the van with his cock rather than a gas pump.
Yeah, and this is RJ's doing it from an angle that he thinks is the most avant-garde and the most likely to get him the Palme d'Or at Cannes Film Festival. Whereas Bobby Lynn, who knows exactly what needs to be done to sell to their target audience, says, well, if you film it from this angle, it's going to look like his cock's out.
Yeah. And she should have been the director.
She should have, definitely.
The group arrives at a farm owned by Howard and Pearl, an elderly couple who have a guest house that they rented for the shoot. Howard disapproves of the group, but Wayne excuses this due to not informing him entirely of their intentions.
Howard does like the look of Maxine, though, doesn't he?
He does, yes.
Because Maxine looks very much like
she does.
a younger Pearl. Which I thought was quite funny.
Yes.
Once you put the pieces together, it's quite funny the way that Howard's staring at her.
Yeah. Whilst Bobby Lynn and Jackson act out a scene, Maxine goes for a swim whilst Pearl watches her from a distance. And when she swims back, an alligator follows her. And this is amazing because this is so 70s to randomly have an alligator in a horror film.
Absolutely.
And just that scene of her swimming in the lake whilst they're shooting porn elsewhere and having them intercut between each other, it's fantastic. It works so well. And Bobby Lynn, Brittany Snow's acting during the scene that they're shooting is so good. Like, there's a scene where she stops to laugh and they quickly turn the camera to her and she immediately goes back to having sex and putting on an orgasm, and it's so entertaining.
She's a professional.
She is.
And thankfully it shows that Ty West isn't scared of a split screen.
Yes.
Which I have to see in Maxine. If we're gonna get the full on Brian De Palma tribute that I really feel like it's going to be, then I'm gonna need him to be very comfortable with split screens, and thankfully he is, and it works perfectly here.
RJ and Wayne discuss how great the film looks, and Wayne asks RJ to feel how hard his cock is just to prove how much he loves it. That's how all films are reviewed, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
Meanwhile,
you should have seen me after Silence of the Lambs. Bloody hell.
Meanwhile, Bobby Lynn throws a spunky towel to the floor. This film is not afraid to show spunk.
No.
It just misses Lorraine, and she informs Jackson that all of her orgasms are just acting, and he's disappointed because it's not because of him, but also confesses his love for her. He's a bit of a himbo.
A little bit.
Which I love about that.
It's definitely... Bobby Lynn is probably one of the more intelligent people in the film, which goes against her sort of... Well, in the film itself, the porn film, is The Farmer's Daughter. Is that what it's called?
The Farmer's Daughter.
The Farmer's Daughter. She plays, obviously, to type as a blonde. But in real life, she actually gives some of the most intelligent commentary. Yeah. She seems to be the most emotionally intelligent out of everyone. And she's given the director some helpful tips as well. You know, so I love that about her.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting having that switch where a film set in the 70s has the intelligent blonde who is intelligent and not the ditzy blonde, and the Marine Corps veteran being the dumb one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's such a nice little twist.
Yeah.
Pearl invites Maxine into the farmhouse and expresses an unusual fixation on her because she sees herself in her.
She looks exactly like Pearl looked when she was younger. Like, she shows the photos and like,
Yeah.
that does look like me. Is that me a goth?
Howard returns home and Pearl rushes Maxine out, you urging her to keep it as a secret. Their little conversation.
Yeah, so it initially feels like Pearl is trying it on with Maxine.
Yeah.
And I do feel like she does a little bit, because so Maxine, she's looking super cunty.
Yeah.
Wearing these dungarees, but with nothing underneath.
Yeah.
So we're getting a lot of side boob, but it looks great. Looks like off the runway.
Yeah.
Like, but I feel like Mia Goth could wear anything, and it kind of looks like it's straight off the runway. True. But Pearl reaches out and kind of grazes her breast, and you kind of go straight to, oh my god, she's trying to sleep with her, which I think is partially true.
Yeah.
But also she's reminiscing.
Yeah.
It's almost, it would be almost like seeing a wax figure of yourself.
Yeah.
But a wax figure of when you were younger.
Yeah.
And that would be very strange to see in real life. So like, oh, I remember when I looked like that before time took its toll.
Yeah.
And you would sort of reach out and try and feel it and be like, wow, this is I remember when my breasts looked like that. I remember when my face was wrinkle free. I remember when my ass wasn't 2 inches from the floor.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what we get in terms, it's a little bit of both.
I think it's elaborated on the next scene, especially when Maxine returns to the guest house and shoots a sex scene with Jackson in the barn. And Pearl secretly watches and imagines herself in Maxine's spot. The shot of her watching from the window is hilarious, by the way. I can't even explain why. It's just a slow zoom in of her just having a nose in the window. It's so camp.
Number one, it's because, again, it's Winona Ryder and Edward Scissorhands.
True.
And number two, because I can imagine someone watching a porn film, pants down by his ankles, give himself a treat, and then just in the background her face in the scene.
Yeah. It's a great scene, and obviously we see the swap. She goes from Maxine to Pearl on top of him, imagining herself there, and then she goes home and tries to seduce Howard, but he turns her down because of his heart problems. So this is where I think the themes really come in.
Yes.
And yeah, it's so interesting for a Hagsploitation film to go down this road and have it so explicitly shown.
Because we actually feel sorry for Pearl at times. We feel bad because she is someone born in an era where she couldn't freely be herself.
Yeah.
And express her sexuality in the way that she wanted to express her sexuality. Rather than being, promiscuous, for want of a better word, or for wanting to be openly bisexual. Yeah. But she was raised, and when you watch Pearl, you kind of see all this, and she's someone who lives very much with regret. And she realizes that she hasn't done what she wanted to with her life, and it ends up becoming aggression rather than depression.
Yeah.
She takes it out on other people. And it, in a moment like this, it's very sad.
Yeah.
She hasn't killed anyone yet, so we still kind of feel sorry for her. To this extent.
Yeah. And that night, Lorraine asks questions about love and sex. And Bobby Lynn delivers some inspirational words. She says, everybody likes sex. It's a gas. We're just not afraid to admit it. Queer, straight, black, white, it's all disco.
Yes.
One day we're going to be too old to fuck, and life's too short if you ask me. The fact of the truth of the matter is we turn folks on, and that scares them. And Maxine says, and they can't look away neither. And she says, that's right. We're like a foxy car wreck. And it's so true.
It's so true.
The truth of the matter is, you turn folks on and it scares them. That is all the critics that absolutely bash films because there's a tit or two. You know, it's so true. And it's still true to this day. Look at the reaction from a lot of people to Poor Things.
Yes.
Look at the reaction to that film. And they look for the smallest things to blame it on. Like the whole, oh, she's a child's mind in an adult's body. Yeah. Dipshit. Emma Stone isn't a child. Emma Stone is an adult we're watching, and the whole point of the film is that it wasn't okay that the operation went like it did and having a child in that person's body. But it can still be an empowering film about sex. You know, she's not really a child, but people will go to that rather than saying, I just didn't like that there was too much sex.
To a certain extent, I feel like we're having a backlash now against
there's
sex
so much complaints
in
about
cinema,
sex scenes.
and I think it's a lot of people sort of question the validity of a sex scene.
Yeah.
Like, does this exist just for some cheap TNA?
Mm.
I say, personally, so what if it is?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
if you've got a
I'm
consenting
watching
actress
who is perfectly fine and
Yeah.
says, I have absolutely no problems whatsoever with getting my kit off to go for a little skinny dip in this random slasher film, and what, you're going to pay me extra for it? Fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, nobody talks about, you know, these great paintings of these beautiful naked people in the same light, because that's seen as high art.
Yeah, exactly.
That's high art. That is.
Yeah.
But fuck it, you know, if I wouldn't personally do it, that's my choice. But if somebody else is like, yeah, I'll take my top off for this random low budget slasher film, fucking go for it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's very disappointing that we're getting that sort of critiques in a time where the world is mostly more sex positive than it's ever been. But yeah,
I think there's and this isn't us saying that it's never happened that an act, and we're talking about actresses here because that's mainly the you know the people who have to get naked on screen.
Yeah,
you know, throughout cinematic history, that's unfortunately the way it is. But I think people assume that they are coerced in some way into doing it.
Yeah,
and that's not to say that that's never happened.
Yeah,
and that's shit. And it shouldn't happen. But that you can't tie everyone with the same brush.
Yeah.
And for an actress like Brittany Snow to say, well, yeah, I did it because it was for the character. It was for the role. And also, I just felt really good about it.
Yeah.
Then that's I don't see how you can have a problem with that.
No.
2 thumbs up from me.
Yeah, absolutely. After this empowering speech, we get an empowering performance. A camp, heart-wrenching rendition of Landslide by Fleetwood Mac whilst Jackson plays guitar. And oh my god, it is something. It really is. I know we've already spoke about it, but come on. This is just amazing. Top tier stuff. This is the moment I realised it was 10 out of 10 from me. It was just Brittany Snow has that sort of Jessica Simpson voice. Chana has.
Oh wow!
And
wow.
but better, more polished. She's got it down to like the more Brittany.
Jewel.
Yeah, Jewel or Brittany. We'll say Brittany. And for her to perform Landslide that way after that speech, and with a split screen of Pearl looking depressed, brushing her hair in the mirror because she can't have sex. Oh my god, it broke camp barriers.
It's so random, but really works in the context of the film because the lyrics work with the story and Pearl's story. And again, you feel sorry for her. Nobody wants to age. In terms of nobody wants to age out of being able to live physically the way that they want to live. And it is the way that she looks, you know, but also the way that she feels. And it's really quite sad.
Yeah.
And you do feel sorry for Pearl. at this moment, and it's a beautiful rendition of Landslide, completely random,
Yeah.
totally random in the context of the film. But Bobby Lynn, again, the most talented.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
can sing.
Yeah.
But she knows that she's better off
Mm-hmm.
using sex
Yeah.
to get ahead, to get that pool and to tan her titties, because she knows she's really good at that and there's a market for it.
Mm-hmm.
But as a singer, it might not work out for her.
No.
I'm assuming. Shouldn't say that, but
the
we'll
thing
see
is,
Nashville.
again, it's very much you're looking at one side of the screen and you've got Bobby Lynn, great body, blonde, so gorgeous, perfect voice, so much talent, many years ahead of her, so she thinks. And then on the other side, you've got Pearl, past her prime, aged awfully thanks to prosthetics. Brushing her hair in the mirror because it's all she can do.
Yeah.
Like she can't do what she wants to do, and I think that one shot just says it all. That really just says it all about the film.
Yeah, and I think ultimately it's sad because a good vibrator probably could have really helped her out here.
Yeah.
Like really, what,
Shame Howard didn't think of that.
1979? Is that too early?
Maybe.
I feel like it really could have helped her.
I've never done the research personally, but Lorraine feels so inspired by Landslide and asked to participate in the shoot, which upsets RJ.
Well, RJ insinuates that Lorraine shouldn't participate because she's a nice girl. And I think it's interesting because RJ is using women's sexuality to further his career, whilst looking down on the actresses. The film would be a success because of his directing, his avant-garde French New Wave style, and not because he has the most beautiful stars with the nicest tits and biggest cock.
Yeah.
So as always, the emphasis is on women in these situations. As the man, Jackson, can do whatever he wants with no judgment.
Mm-hmm.
But the conversation is about Lorraine being a nice girl.
Yeah.
No one ever questions whether Jackson is a nice guy. And I find that very interesting. And it, tale as old as time, the women being, men using women's bodies and sexuality for their own personal gain.
Exactly.
Whilst judging them for wanting or, having no issues with wanting to use their bodies and their sexualities for them to get ahead.
Yeah.
RJ is completely hypocritical in this situation.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because it's not necessarily about the idea of her cheating.
Mm-hmm.
It's about his pride, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the fact that he wouldn't be able to see Lorraine in the same light anymore because she would be spoiled goods.
Yeah.
She's not church mouse anymore. She's not the prissy young lady that he fell in love with.
Yeah. And what's even more interesting is the fact that in this film, he's the one who's punished first for it.
Yes.
So when everyone's asleep...
Well, just going back just slightly, sorry. So they have a quite an interesting conversation, which I found very funny, where RJ says, well, we've already shot half of the film anyway. The story can't just suddenly change midway through, which, number one, is funny because we're just about to have that.
Yeah.
Because Pearl's about to have her first kill. And Lorraine says, well, what about in Psycho? You love that movie. And RJ says, well, Psycho is a horror film, and that plot was a MacGuffin to build suspense, and I'm not making that kind of movie. And Lorraine says, oh, come on, RJ. Nobody's coming to see this film for the plot. They're coming to see tits and ass and a big dick.
And that is everything you get in this film.
It's true.
This does fall into my favourite sort of horror, the situational horror, where these people... This actually didn't have to be a horror film. These people don't know they're in a horror film.
No.
They just end up here, and they accidentally ended up in a place of a horny couple of murderers.
Yeah, and it's a little meta as well. That whole speech is a little meta.
Oh, yeah.
The wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I didn't know I was making a horror film. Well, you do now, because you're about to be first killed.
Yeah.
You're Marion Crane in this one.
Yeah, when everyone's asleep, an angry RJ attempts to drive away and strand the group at the farm, but finds Pearl in the driveway whilst he's listening to Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult.
Of course.
So an immediate tone change
Mhm.
from the making a porn comedy that we've had up until now. After he rebuffs her advances, Pearl stabs him to death and does a celebratory dance to Wee Wee Marie by Chelsea Wolfe afterwards. This is iconic. I mean, I didn't expect the stab to be as gory as it was. When we first
No,
watched
she
it.
just keeps going.
Yeah, and the dance after, it's just because the blood splattered over the headlights on the van, so it's very Suspiria with the red lighting and the dancing. Love it.
It's giving for me Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Yeah,
It's her, whatever has happened in her brain after killing, it's taken her back to her youth.
yeah,
And she thinks that she's still Pearl from Pearl, you
Yeah.
know, in her 20s, a dancer, and she's doing her little ballet moves, and she thinks she's on stage and she's a star and all that
Yeah.
business. So whatever psychologically has happened here, it's taken her back to that moment. It's absolutely Bette Davis.
it
I've
is.
written a letter to daddy sort
Mhm.
of moment. It's pretty, except for way more graphic.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And also, Bette Davis wasn't that old.
No, no.
In Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Well, noticing RJ is missing, Lorraine and Wayne look for him. And in the barn, Wayne steps on a large nail and gets killed by Pearl with a pitchfork to the eye. Now, this I definitely wasn't expecting. I mean, the nail is nasty. That always gets me
I
whenever it's in
hate stuff
any
like that.
film.
Ugh.
And yeah, it's particularly nasty here. And the pitchfork to the eyes is very zombie flesh eaters.
Yes. Yeah. What's the lead up to the pitchfork to the eyes? Remind me.
So he goes to the look out the peephole of the barn.
Yeah. So yes. So almost like a voyeur.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
he's
in
looking
a
for a peephole
voyeuristic
and gets
kind of
killed.
way,
Yeah.
looking for a peephole.
Mhm.
Very sort of on the nose with
Yeah.
that one, definitely.
Yeah, really great scene, and I love that this film just uses practical effects.
Yes.
It's a horror film that
Thank
relies
God.
entirely on practical effects, and it's so fucking good for it.
It looks so much better for it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Meanwhile,
It's
Howard.
set in the 70s.
Oh yeah,
isn't it?
exactly.
And
exactly.
that's not to say they're not hokey, but if it was a little hokey, it would kind of maybe add to the atmosphere
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Howard invites Lorraine into their house, claiming Pearl has gone missing. He asks Lorraine to retrieve a flashlight from the basement, and when she goes down there, he locks the door as she discovers a naked male corpse hanging from the ceiling. We get our first bit of Willy,
We do.
and it's not long until we get another bit when Howard goes to the guest house and asks Jackson, who is standing there with his gigantic cock swinging, to help find Pearl. I assume this is a prosthetic.
Well, Jackson makes an appearance in silhouette,
It
doesn't it?
does,
So you just
yes.
kind of, he's lit from behind, so you kind of just see it between the legs. I would assume, I mean, I don't know Kid Cudi personally, but I would assume that that's probably a prosthetic. Oh.
It would be difficult to walk around if it isn't.
Well, I mean, I'm not one
It's down to the knee.
It's very. I'm assuming he would go lightheaded every time.
When they split up to scout the lake's perimeter, Jack finds a car submerged in the water. After failing to draw Jackson into the water with his flashlight, Howard confronts him and shoots him in the chest. And I genuinely think all of the death scenes in this film are really shocking. Like, you know, you're watching a horror film, you know these people are going to die. It starts with their corpses, for God's sake. But all of them just seem to come out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think for Pearl, you assume that the older lady isn't going to be the killer
Yeah.
necessarily, in the physical sense.
Uh-huh.
You just assume that the guy is going to be the killer, really,
Yeah.
and in a protective way, and that's what he does here.
Yeah.
He shoots him because they're, in his words, deliberately trying to entice his wife.
Uh-huh.
in some way, getting her riled up.
Just for existing. Meanwhile, Pearl sneaks into the guest house, undresses, and climbs into bed with Maxine caressing her body. She awakens to find Pearl lying next to her, and this wakes up Bobby Lynn. A really creepy scene.
Yeah. Again, I feel like we're somewhere between her reminiscing about her youth and trying to be close to that representation of her youth that she's lost, and also because she probably does want to get it on with Pearl.
Yeah,
she's wanted to express her bisexuality, and maybe she's a true narcissist and would love the chance to shag herself.
Yeah. Back in the house, Lorraine breaks through the basement door with a hatchet, but Howard breaks her fingers. And Bobby Lynn finds Pearl standing on the lake's edge and tries to help her. She's like, oh, it's okay. My nana gets confused sometimes too. I learned all about it so I could help her. I want to be a nurse someday. Pearl's like, I don't need your help. And she insults her a little more. And Bobby Lynn's had enough now. She's like, move, you mean old ugly. But before she could finish, she's pushed into the water where an alligator kills her. She's puss first into the water. Puss pounding fun time. Just like Garfield. She's pushed into the water, and Pearl just turns to her and finishes her sentence and bitch. And the alligator eats her.
Very eaten alive. This is very much in keeping with the sweaty 70s horror films. Deranged, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Motel Hell, Eaten Alive, where you kind of assume everybody kind of smells a bit stinky because it's so hot and the sun's always blazing. I love it. I love this death scene. Poor Bobby Lynn. God bless her. Maybe, she turns up in Maxine. She maybe survived Hayden Panettiere style.
Glad she got the alligator.
I'm glad she got the alligator death. She got a very memorable death. Bless her. R.I.P.
Yeah.
Bobby Lynn. But genuinely, again, looking after Pearl, where everyone else seemed repulsed by Pearl.
Yeah.
She tries to help her. She says she wants to be a nurse. And it's this genuinely lovely character, intelligent, and not afraid of her sexuality. It's like there's enough room for all of this. And she says to Pearl, it's not my fault you didn't live the life that you wanted.
Yeah.
Bobby Lynn is living, or lived,
before
she was pushed in the water, the life that she wanted.
Sure.
She had full control. She did whatever she wanted to do. And it was none of anyone else's business.
Yeah.
And Pearl calls her a whore, calls her these names, but is definitely from a place of jealousy and regret and envy. And I think that is pretty much the theme of the film.
Yeah.
This sort of battle between the righteousness and the sexually liberated. And Pearl, because she's not able to do that, as we see in the prequel, she turns to violence.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
She acts out.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in the real world. That's what happens with, oh my God, these politicians, these ones saying, don't say gay, these fuckers, these assholes in power who have this bitterness, this envy that people are living their lives the way that they want, and they're not harming anyone else, that they feel this need to project.
Yeah, it's true.
When it's them that's harming people.
Yeah. Well, Pearl and Howard reunite and enter the guest house.
That's how Sue sees it.
They enter the guest house where they have sex with Maxine under the bed. The scene that horrified everyone. Not old people having sex. Oh no.
But then what I found interesting was the fact that Maxine was scrubbing herself.
Yeah.
As if Pearl's old age was contagious.
Yes.
She's literally scrubbing.
Yeah, because she's fighting so hard to get the life that she wants.
Yeah.
You know, one of the quotes that's coming up really sums up the entire film. And jumping ahead a little, it's "I will not accept a life that I do not deserve." And that is this entire trilogy. You know, it's that fear of getting old and not doing those things that you want to do and becoming that star that you want to be. So I feel like, yeah, as much as looking at Maxine, Pearl looking at Maxine is a look at her younger self, Maxine looking at Pearl is a look at her future self and what she doesn't want to be. So that's why she's so repulsed and just like scrubbing herself.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, do you agree?
Yeah, no, absolutely, definitely, yeah.
Maxine.
No, I don't. You're wrong.
But the scene is great. Her just trying to get out from under the bed whilst they're going at it.
But this is quintessential slasher film territory, where Jason Voorhees is watching around the room and trying to find the girl under the bed.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, with a machete about to kill her.
Yeah.
Unless I'm mistaken, Maxine doesn't know that anyone's been killed so far.
No, she doesn't.
So she's not necessarily hiding from Jason Voorhees. No. She's hiding from old people having sex. It's not, you know that big reveal where the final girl sees her best friend's been slaughtered. This one is the final girl sees two old people having sex. The most disgusting thing that could ever happen.
She escapes to the van and arms herself with a pistol. She frees Lorraine, who runs out the front door only to be shot by Howard. Again, really shocking.
I was shocked. I assumed we were getting General Ortega final girl.
Yeah.
I assumed we were going to get Maxine taking Lorraine under her wing. And I assumed we would get a sequel where they're both Thelma and Louising it throughout the town. Going to Las Vegas and different places.
It could have been, but no, she's gone. And as the couple moves her body inside the house, Lorraine's corpse twitches, and it startles Howard so much he has a fatal heart attack, which is even funnier considering it's like the slightest twitch.
Yeah,
it's not even a jump scare. He just dies.
Like, he's been so scared of dying from a heart attack whilst having sex with Pearl.
Yeah.
That he ends up dying from a heart attack because of a slight jump scare.
Yeah. But she's there, Pearl's there, and she's like, "Oh, come please help me. He's having a heart attack." And it's like, oh my god. Wait, do we want her to be helped now?
No.
She just killed these people, but the way she says it is so sympathetic. It's like, oh my god.
But I think that's so...
But she doesn't know that she's doing wrong by killing these people.
No. But I also think it's the hypocrisy of these... And I absolutely think it's... Because we have this sort of evangelical dude on the TV throughout the whole film, talking about, you know, how disgusting sex is and premarital and all that business, all this far right shit.
Yeah.
We get this guy throughout the whole thing, and it's the complete hypocrisy of it all. It's, we're not willing to help you, but you should be willing to help us.
Yeah. Like, we are literally, I'm trying to kill you. Yeah. But why aren't you helping me try to kill you? Yeah. Like, what's your problem here? I don't understand. What? We're taking all the money from the schools, but you know, but you still need to show us some respect. Like, no, fuck you. And you know, Maxine does it. Like, no, fuck you. Fuck off. Maxine retrieves the keys to Howard's truck and attempts to shoot Pearl, but the pistol's not loaded. But before this, Pearl's like, "You don't think I know who you really are? I saw what you did in the barn. You're a deviant little whore. We're the same. You'll end up just like me." And she's like, "I'm nothing like you. You're a murdering sex fiend. I'm a fucking star. I will not accept a life that I do not deserve." Yes. And yeah, it's that whole thing, like, you're a whore, but hang on, we're the same. You'll end up just like me. So, okay. It's the hypocrisy of it all.
Speaking of hips.
Yeah. Pearl shoots at Maxine with Howard's gun, but the gun recoils and knocks back onto the porch, breaking her hip. And as Maxine gets into Howard's truck, Pearl berates and insults her. So Maxine reverses the truck, crushes Pearl's head in graphic fashion. We see every second of it, and drives away and says, "Divine intervention. Praise the fucking Lord." And it's revealed that Maxine is the daughter of the televangelist frequently heard throughout the film.
Yes. Yeah. He says, my daughter Maxine, she's been missing for this amount of time, and we see her picture, don't we, on the TV?
I hope we get him looking for her, like in Hardcore.
That's
in Maxine.
yeah.
I hope that's where that's going. The police discover RJ's camera, with the sheriff speculating that it contains footage of one goddamn fucked up horror picture, and that's X.
That's X. X marks the spot.
It does. Yeah, absolutely amazing. I love it so much, and I can't wait to see the concluding chapter. But apparently Ty West has got more in mind if Maxine's successful.
Oh, that's good.
Because I would love to see this franchise going on for a while. But for now, if Maxine's good, this is one hell of a trilogy.
Yeah. I, as somebody who loves his older films, I've always sort of had an affinity to watching older films rather than new ones. To see a new film that wears its influences so openly on its sleeve, and the films that it references are films that I love, but makes it into its own thing. Really interesting characters, really interesting themes. The acting's top notch. The effects are fantastic. I love the look of it. Cinematography, beautiful. Soundtrack, fantastic. I just really top notch entertainment. Yeah, really top notch.
Let's give some awards.
Biggest queen is, of course, Bobby Lynn.
It is.
I'm sorry. I know Maxine is, the star, but Bobby Lynn had my heart in this film.
Definitely. Biggest gasp, I got Wayne's nail to the foot and pitchfork to the eyes.
Ooh, I went with Lorraine's death. I was shocked by that one.
Best dialogue, I've got "You're a fucking sex symbol," Maxine to herself.
I went with queer, straight, black, white. It's all disco.
And that's camp. It has to be Brittany Snow's Landslide.
Definitely Landslide.
I give it 10 foxy car wrecks out of 10.
Nice. I gave it 10 tits, asses, and big dicks out of 10.
It's masterpiece, trash, basically a camp or bunch of fun. Just like everything in Hagsploitation Month until next week ruins it. It's a camp or bunch of masterpiece.
It's a camp or bunch of masterpiece, definitely.
It's available on DVD, Blu-ray, video on demand, and 4 on demand in the UK. Random.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
If you enjoyed this, I went with the obvious one. Check out Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
If you enjoyed this, I suggest watching Hardcore. Similar themes, if not a similar execution. And I think Maxine might be going in that direction. So give Hardcore a good watch.
Yes.
Give it a good watch.
Yeah. We're Horrorcore Trash over on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Horrorcore Trash on Twitter. I'm dead at Gaz92 on Letterboxd, where I've actually created a Maxine preparation list. Go and check it out. Gazmo205 on Instagram, GazChris92 on Twitter.
Chris Barker 823 on Instagram and Letterboxd.
And we're also Gasp Horror Fest across all social media. We are now a month away, officially a month away, to this very day if you listen on Tuesday. Go and get your tickets. Give us a rate, review, subscribe on iTunes, like a follow, and everything else. Next week, we are finishing Hagsploitation Month with Mother's Day Original versus Remake.
Yeah, okay. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah.
Let's see how time has changed our opinions.
Let's see.
Yes.
We'll be back same time, same place next week.
Bye.